Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Todd Rodden. I'm a certified executive and business coach and an Aspire Action Coach based here in the Dayton, Ohio area. I think you're going to love this story today from Doug Borchers, who's the president of Superior Aluminum Products. Story of a leader coming in, taking on an existing organization, really getting them to pivot, not only how they face the market, but a lot around the structure of the team challenges many of us as business leaders take on a regular basis. So if you're new to the Business Spotlight series, we're thrilled to have you join us. We encourage you to hit the subscribe button. So not only receive today's message from Doug, but also future messages from other inspiring entrepreneurs. So without further ado, Doug Borchers is the president of Superior Aluminum Products. And again, manufacturer of fencing, railings, and columns used throughout the construction industry here in the U.S. Take a minute, share a little bit about your story as an entrepreneur and a little bit more about Superior.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me. Try to keep this as brief as possible. The background is after college, I went to work for a Fortune 500 company by the name of Eaton Corporation and spent 10 years there in various cities. Started out in manufacturing and marketing, moved into technical sales. My degree is in electrical engineering, so this was a more technical type of job. And then got into management with them. I had an opportunity to be in a junior management program there and became a district manager for the company. As most major corporations do, they try to move you a bunch because they want to give you opportunities and experience as you move up the ladder. And as our family was growing, we now have 7 children. At the time, we had 2 or 3, and there was just not a desire by my wife and I to do much more moving. So we put roots down, went to work for one of each distributors. I spent 19 years at a company called Dickman Supply, and as the vice president of that company, we were successful in growing that company by about 10 times over a 19-year period. So rapid growth, rapid expansion into new territories, new markets, new business segments. And it was a lot of fun. And the owner treated me well, basically gave me free reign to run the business as I needed with his support on the background and some general guardrails. And we grew the business, had a lot of fun. Never intended to leave that business. And 9 years ago, my father called me and said, "We want you back in the family business." And I told them no about 3 or 4 times. And my father's partner, the partner's family, also started calling me and saying, "Look, it's the time for you to come back to the family business. And we've got a good business here, but we know we can do some additional things. And with your background and experience, we think you can bring a lot to the game." So eventually they talked me into it. So 9 years ago, I did what I swore I would never do, and I moved back to my hometown. I came back to the family business because when I went to college in the early 1980s, I told my dad, "Sayonara, I'll never be back to this town. I'll never work in the family business." I was wrong on both counts. The business is owned by 2 families, a Francis family and a Borchers family. My father retired about 20 something years ago. He's 86, so he probably retired right around 20 years ago. And the Francis family members ran the business for about the next 12 years. They were approaching retirement age, and I was the last of the second generation available who was still working, and they asked me to come into the business. So I did it, and been the best thing that's happened to me. I feel like I was in a 30-year training program prior to coming here so that I could join the family business and bring a little value to it.
So a 30-year training program that sounded pretty intensive right around that. So
Yeah.
if you could maybe take a minute and kind of share, like, again, some of the products you produce there at Superior, and who are some of your target customers?
So yes, we make exterior architectural aluminum products for the construction industry. That might be residential, something you would have a support column on your front porch, railing on your back deck of your house. So that would be a residential application. A sort of residential commercial application may be balconies on condominiums or apartments. A commercial application might be railing for steps or ramps at churches or commercial businesses or hospitals, universities, schools, those type of things. And anything in between, fence for backyards, fence for around pool areas at apartment complexes and so on. It's varied between residential, commercial. Our customers mostly purchase through a dealer network that consists of building products distributors, lumber yards, home improvement centers, those type of things. So we sell through a dealer network across the country.
Okay, great. What is it you wish more people knew about, whether it's the dealer network or the consumers?
Um, well, the thing that we do well that maybe our competitors don't choose to do is we are willing to customize. So our competitors, we have a number of good competitors. They tend to want to make standard products, kick out standard 6-foot sections, and somebody has to figure out how it all goes together down at the job site or at the home. What we decided to do 8, 9 years ago, after listening to a number of customers, is they're like, look, labor's hard to find, and that's got even worse over the last 8 or 9 years. Labor's hard to find. We don't necessarily know your product or even how to install any type of this type of product. You need to make it easier on us because by the time we're installing your product, it's close to the end of the job. We have a punch list that's 30 items long, and now we just made it 31 because we have to figure out how to get that railing or that fence installed. And so what we decided to do was more customization. Instead of kicking out standard product after standard product, we will take the customer's dimensions and design it exactly per the specifications. So they don't have to do any trimming, sizing, shimming, any of those type of things. When they get it on the job site, all they have to do is anchor the product and it's done. So we've taken a lot of the extra work on the job site out by customizing here at the factory.
Great example of finding where your niche, where you can compete, specializing there. I'm curious how then you've had an excellent growth story over the last 9 years that I know you shared with me. What have been kind of keys to that growth, whether that's marketing strategy, sales strategy, maybe emphasizing that message that you just shared there?
Yeah, that message ties in with some other things we've done. So we've in the last 5 years have tripled the business. We've realized some significant growth. We've added 50% manufacturing on the facility. We've doubled our number of people and tripled our amount of sales in the last 5 years. And most of it has been due to that customization aspect because, especially if you think back to COVID, labor was very scarce. A lot of people didn't want to go to work during COVID, but projects still needed to get done. So how do we help the end customer get the project over the goal line in that final month on the project? So a couple of things. One is we started training factory trained installers. We've flown people in from all over the country. I think our farthest away installer is in Denver. We've got them all the way to the East Coast and the South and the North. So in just about every major city in that geography, there is a factory trained installer. We've flown to the factory, spent 2 days on how to train the products, so that the customer, when they buy our product, we say, we have a factory trained installer. Would you like to put you in touch with them? And we've got somebody that's a partner. Now, on a home build, probably not as important, but on a 400 unit apartment project, they're very interested in that. Again, they've got that punch list of all those items that need to be done. Somebody's moving in a month from now because they've got a lease contract that I'm moving in a month from now. We've got all these things to do. We kind of just take that off their list. So that factory trained installer, they can subcontract with them to get that part of the project done. So that's been a real key of how we've been able to help our customers get their projects done. On top of that, we've probably designed, for the years before I was here. Again, this has been a good business for a long time, but really no new products, no new customers, no new territories for about the 12-year period before I came, we were kind of just doing a good job of managing the day-to-day business. There are so many things that change in construction and on job sites that the customers were asking for different types of products. So we've invented and come out with dozens of new products over that period of time, and patents and customization of some of our existing products that more meet the needs of the job site. So a lot of that is, again, it really comes down to listening to the customer. I probably spent the first 6 months traveling. I was on airplanes and in cars traveling, listening to, talking to customers. What do you like about us? What do you wish we would do more of? What shouldn't we do anymore? Talking to potential new customers. I know you've not done business with us, but if you were, how would you like it to happen? So we kind of built after a 6 month period of strategy on how do we do things the way the customers want it done. And that's kind of been kind of the impetus for some of this growth.
Okay. Hey, maybe building upon that with somebody, your end user might be a consumer, but you're mostly a B2B seller. You've got this dealer network that you're selling through. How do you manage kind of that growing and diverse dealer network?
Well, that's a difficult thing because within that dealer network, though the company names and locations stay the same, the people are constantly changing. So
Yeah.
just when you think you've got everybody on the same page, those people leave, go somewhere else. Now we have new people to train. Um, a lot of what we do is try to manage, not manage, but be involved in the end customer relationships and tie that back in through our dealer customers because so much changes at those dealers that we really need to get the message out to the end customer either through the dealer or to the customer and then back to the dealer. But we involve the network in that particular experience.
Okay. So if I understand that right, you're really kind of reaching through, also building those relationships with those construction firms, right? Who then are going to demand your products back into that dealer network. Is that
That's correct.
all right? Get that repeat. Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
So 9 years, you talked about the growth, and especially in the last 5 years, a tripling of sales, outstanding. Um, life of an entrepreneur, like you said, you had a 30-year training program for this. I'm curious, since your time leading the business, what's been a past challenge that really stands out to you, and what did you learn from that?
I would guess the biggest challenge that I ran into is when I first started here, it was a very veteran workforce and still is, but a very veteran workforce that had done things a certain way for a long period of time. And for who is this new guy that hasn't worked at this place since he's been in high school? This was like my high school summer job. I worked here because my dad was the president of the company. But who is this new guy to come in and tell us we're going to do things differently? So that was probably the number one challenge was to paint the vision of where we're going, what things we needed to do, and that the old methods probably weren't going to get us there. And a fair amount of resistance, and I would have been the same way, to be honest with you. It's not like, oh, they're bad people. They're great people. They just were used to doing things a certain way and didn't see the need to have to change anything. Well, we've always done it. It's always worked. Why would we change anything? So probably the biggest challenge was painting the vision and getting buy-in from team members in order to make that happen. The other issue we had was because the business evolved from my father and his partner bought this business in 1966. I was a very young person back in 1966, and it was in Youngstown, Ohio. I moved to Youngstown with my sister and my parents, and my father ran the business for a year up in Youngstown before bringing it back to his hometown. And as the business evolved, it was still a small business for many years, and longtime employees that just again it was my challenge and my job to be able to paint the vision of what we could do. And I spent 6 months on the road talking to customers and I knew what was possible. I probably didn't do a good job coming back saying, listen, I've been out talking to these people. These people do business with us if we do these kind of things. So it brought challenges such as we didn't have a marketing department. I got to tell you a story. This is a good story. So my first 2 weeks on the job, I actually worked on the shop floor. I showed up in blue jeans and a sweatshirt, and I worked every piece of machinery equipment and did every assembly out in the shop. I was horrible. I'm not good with my hands. And I shut the stamping press down. I messed a lot of things up. And it just, that's not the talents the good Lord gave me. But I wanted to do it. I wanted to meet the people. I wanted to find out. I wanted to see our processes, and I wanted to know who these people were. And one of the people I met was in the shipping department, and I said, "Tell me a little about yourself." He said, "Well, I graduated from Ohio State 4 months ago, and I'm getting ready to get engaged. My fiance has a full-time job with a local accounting firm, so I didn't want to go move to another city because we're going to be engaged, and she's got a job here. So I'm actively looking for a job in this area in my degree." And I said, "What's your degree?" And he said, "Marketing." And I said, "Who does marketing here?" I didn't know. I haven't been in the building in 30 years. And he said, "I don't know. I'm not sure." So these are the kind of things I came back and I had a meeting after 2 weeks and I had lists of things that I wanted to ask. And when I said, "Who does marketing?" they kind of looked around and they said, "Well, we kind of all do." And I said, "Well, that means nobody does." And they said, "Well, we have a lady 2 towns over that does some brochures for us." I said, "Well, that's a small piece of marketing, but that's not all of marketing." So anyhow, bottom line is we came up with some marketing projects. This young man was working in our shipping department. We brought him in to work on some marketing projects. He was fantastic. He evolved into our marketing manager, got the word out to the market on where we were going. He's now our director of business development and doing a fantastic job there. But the point of that is Jim Collins wrote a book called Good to Great. A lot of people have read that book. We had a lot of the right people on the bus. We just didn't have in the right seats. I had a purchasing agent who had a degree in management information systems, who's a very detailed I dogger, T crosser, organized implementer, and he was in purchasing. And I said, who's our operations manager here? Well, we all kind of run operations. I said, well, that explains the chaos I saw in the shop with 8 different people coming out and trying to prioritize their order and put their order on top of somebody else's, who puts it on top of somebody else's. I said, we need an operations management system, and you are going to be the one to run it. I don't have background in operations management. I said, you have the skills to do operation management. We'll teach you the rest. He today is our vice president of operations, does a fantastic job. Again, right person was on the bus, he was in the wrong seat. So we spent a lot of time over this first 3 or 4 years getting the right people in the right seats so that we could have the systems in place that could help us succeed.
Multiple great examples there, Doug. Well, being humble enough as the new leader to go out and just work in the shop for a couple of weeks to really learn the business, learn the people, get the real skinny to what was really happening on the shop floor, but then also really identifying the hidden gems, the hidden talent within an organization, right? And finding ways to unleash them in the organization. So moving the script forward, what's a current challenge you and the team trying to solve for?
Well, with all of our growth, I mentioned earlier, we've almost tripled in sales in 5 years. Um, we needed an expansion, so we've added 54,000 square feet. We've moved almost every piece of equipment and every storage rack in the facility over the last year. We're much more efficient today than we were. We worked a lot of overtime prior to our expansion. Like 2 years ago, we worked 50 weeks out of 52. We worked overtime to try to get material out because we were so inefficient. We had materials in the way, and flow wasn't good because we didn't have the space to do it. The facility's been relayed out, and we're doing as much and more now without any overtime, with a lot less chaos. So that part's good. What we need next is better information. So we run this business operationally through about 3 or 4 different business systems, including Excel spreadsheets, and we get it done. But there's a better way to do it. There's a better way to get information, use information for purchasing, for scheduling, and all those type of things. And that's the next step, is we are putting in a complete operations management system that should be live, if not later this year, early next year. That is going to be fantastic information for us. That information is all here, but it's in different locations. And as I mentioned before, we were inefficient in the shop. We're still not efficient in the office where we want to be, and that's the next step.
Okay. Right. And getting those different parts of the business of the production process to to talk to one another. It really can take out a lot of things sometimes that either fall on the shop floor or just get missed, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So great journey the last 9 years. What's your dream for the business as you look forward, maybe 5, 10 years down the road?
Well, we're already defining that dream. We probably have at least 12 and probably 15 new products in the R&D on the R&D list. The problem with trying to attack too many at once is you end up with a bunch of footballs on the field and none of them over the goal line. So prioritizing based upon the customer needs, based upon time frame to get these products out is important. We're working through that right now. So it's new products and it's new territories. So if you talk to anybody here, they'll talk to you about ripple theory. When ripple theory is we throw a rock in the pond, we focus on the strongest ripple with whatever strategies we're working on. So that worked, and we started focusing on Ohio and the neighboring states. We went out one ripple of the neighboring states to those states, and so on. And I mentioned we're out to about Denver, Colorado right now. We're going to expand that through the entire country over the next couple of years, and including some international kind of business in addition to expanding our product lines at the same time. So there's much more to come for Superior Aluminum Products. We we believe that customers in those new territories will value the products we have and the way we run our business similarly to our existing customers now.
Good. A lot more on the horizon for you. So
Sure.
you already mentioned several components around team, how we came in and really needing to paint the vision, to understand the team better, gain more buy-in. I'm curious now where you sit. What are your keys to kind of continuing to build the team, to grow the team and to retain the team? You mentioned before, hey, it's a very competitive job market out there as well. So what are your keys right now with the organization?
So it's really simpler than it appears. In the old days, people would come in and put in applications. You'd have a hanging file with a bunch of applications in. Hey, we have an opening in this area. Let's pull the applications file out so you can fill that. Our applications file is empty. We don't have any applications sitting in a file. What we do is, as we've grown and we've added 35 to 40 associates over the last 4 or 5 years, is number one is our culture. We first define it by this is who we are, and this is how things are going to happen here. And we call it the superior way, but it's a definition of our culture. There are 6 segments to the superior way that we truly live by, and those attract people who want that type of an environment. So the first thing we lead with is our culture. And secondly, our best recruiters are our existing employees. They probably hang out with people who have similar values and similar backgrounds to them, and they communicate that we have an opening, and word gets around. And so in the old days, you did it on Indeed and Monster and all that type of stuff. We don't use any of that type of thing. We put it on Facebook, and it gets shared and shared and shared and shared on Facebook, and all of a sudden we have 5 candidates for a job. And when we hire, though, we don't hire for skill. We hire for culture, personality. Are they going to fit our culture? The last thing we want is to bring somebody in who is highly skilled in a certain area, but doesn't fit our team culture. That's a cancer to the organization. We won't do it. So we hire for personality. We train for skill.
Great advice, especially, talked to a lot of folks, especially manufacturing segments, right? Really struggle to be able to find the talent to come in as they grow. And you've got your own internal flywheel, but based on your culture that helps us draw more in. I love that.
Yeah, we don't. If just because you can fog a mirror doesn't mean you get hired. There are personality tests that happen. There are background checks that happen. When you're going to join an organization, we're going to be sure you mesh with the culture that exists.
So, Doug, you had this vast 30-year training program, nearly 10 years now, leading Superior. I'm curious now, as you look back, what have been your keys to success that you would want to share with other entrepreneurs who are maybe a little bit earlier in their journey?
So the first couple of years, it was getting our arms around things and understanding what customers want, understanding what our systems were, and so on. But when we really started making strides was about 5 or 6 years ago. And we went to a local organization called Aileron. People in the Dayton area will know what Aileron is,
Mhm.
and learned about professional management. And not just myself, but my entire senior leadership staff has taken all of the professional management classes, including conscious leadership and all the things at Aileron. And when we were all on the same page, we built our first strategic plan about 5 years ago. And that strategic plan, at about the same time, I read a book called Four Disciplines of Execution. And Four Disciplines of Execution talks about, building the plan, making the priorities, what are the leading indicators we need to work on, and how do we build a cadence to make sure we are still working on those leading indicators. So we have a meeting in this office this afternoon, and each division leader has to report out once a month where they're at on advancing their group toward the strategic initiative. So it's very intentional. We call it a 3-year strategic plan. It is really mostly current type of things, but it's written from a 3-year standpoint of we don't want to just do things today that only affect today and then turn around and change them again. But we work toward this 3-year strategic plan. The following November, we get together and we write the next 3-year strategic plan. But then it has a cadence to it. And 4DX, Four Disciplines of Execution, will tell you if you have a cadence and if people are required to report out, they'll get things done. If you write it, put it up on a shelf, and hope that it gets done, it won't get done. So what really happened was we were very intentional about building a strategic plan and executing it, and that is the culture now. And it's not just a handful of senior leaders that are executing it. We launched that entire strategic plan to the entire company. Every associate of Superior Aluminum sits through the rollout of the strategic plan, and when that's done, they go back to their groups, and a senior leader goes back to their group and talks to them about, ask them what they heard, how does that affect them, what kind of questions did they have, do they have thoughts or suggestions about how we implement the plan? So we meet with every individual in the company. We first roll it out to them and then meet with them in groups. So we're all on the same page as to where we're going. It's not just some high pie in the sky type of thing that sounds good or looks good on your website. That's not how we operate around
Here. Yeah. So I love that. Hey, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so often you see folks, they'll make that plan, and like I said, then it ends up in a desk drawer, and rarely sees the light of day. But having it being a living part of your culture, your day-to-day operating rhythms, and also intentional times where you step back and make updates to it. Hey, because things do change, right? And you've got to make some pivots sometimes. So
it. Yep.
so love that. Doug, our time flies on these discussions always. I'm curious, as we look to wrap up here, what are the best ways for folks to learn more about Superior Aluminum products and to stay connected and to follow you and the team?
Well, our marketing personnel are doing a very good job of keeping a lot of information out there on social media about us. So you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, especially. So people can keep up with Superior Aluminum and what's going on here through a lot of those type of channels. Obviously, our website, www.superiораluminum.com, shows hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures of our products in installations, and a little about our company and our people and who we are. You'll get the feel for the culture if you go through that website. So those are a couple of ways to learn more about us.
All right. Yeah, I encourage folks to go check out your social media channels as well as your website. Website has a whole gallery of examples of great products, but also very much emphasizes the culture you've built with the team, your value system, and also the many ways in which you give back and support the community around you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Okay. So, Doug, as we wrap up today, curious, what are you inspired by?
Well, I'll tell you what's really been cool over the last year or two is that, we've had to hire a lot of people. I'll back up a second. When I first started, I mentioned I went out in the shop and worked for 2 weeks. When I walked in that door, I was already in my 50s, and the average age went down when I went in that shop. So we needed to get younger if we were going to be successful long term. Our HR manager has done a fantastic job of attracting good young people. So good young people have great creative ideas, but sometimes don't tie them into a business case. It's, I think we ought to do this. I think we ought to do that. Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? And over the last year or two, there's this young talent we've been able to bring on board has been thinking a lot more like a business owner when they bring ideas and things up. So when they come to me, it is we have this idea, this is how it fits in our strategic plan, and here is a business case that shows you why and what the expenses are, what we're going to get out of it, and why we should do this. Here's a business case. That really didn't take place 5 or 6 years ago. So what inspires me is the young people taking ownership, and it helps me know as I retire here in a couple of years that this business has some legs going forward because we have good young people thinking like owners.
Well, thank you for sharing. Doug, that doesn't just happen on its own. That's because you and your other leaders are building the right culture around that those folks feel like they want to be there and they see the opportunity to grow and thrive. So kudos to you and the team. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Doug Borchers, President of Superior Aluminum Products, thank you for sharing your story here with us on the Business Spotlight today.
Enjoyed it, Todd. Thank you.
Yeah. To our viewers, we're thrilled to have you join us, take part as well. We encourage you to hit that like button. It helps us share the message. Also, I encourage you might want to rewind parts of this. There's some great lessons here from Doug and the team, especially around building culture, pivoting the business, and some specific examples when you come in as the new leader into an organization. Some ways to kind of learn and to get a better understanding of the team. So again, we're thrilled to have you all join us. Thanks you again to Doug, and we hope you all have a terrific day.